In this video we're going to look at the client's project initiation. So we're looking at the main project, the project life cycle. So it starts when the client has an idea, has identified a need or an opportunity, and it goes right through to when they get the finished product. So how do you initiate that project? So there it is, this is the client's project, if you like. Probably should have yeah. So anyway, so we're talking about the initial projects of it. So the needs identified. Now normally within the client's organisation, it all depends on the organisation, and if it's a reasonably sized organisation, they'll do an issues and options report or a business case, whatever they call it. Now issues and options reports, usually councils will produce those. Business cases, councils also have business cases. So the issues and options report is what are the issues that need to be addressed, and what are our options for addressing those issues. So it's a real high level sort of thing. So the issue might be we're having traffic congestion on Carrington Road, it's causing delays during rush hour and all those sort of things. And the options are we widen Carrington Road, we build an alternative road, put in a one-way system. You come up with all those options, and then maybe at the end you might recommend one to do it. The business case would be you take a preferred option, if you like, and you make a business case for it. This is the amount of this is how much it's going to cost to do this option. This is the savings it's going to do. These are the benefits. People are going to be spending less time in traffic. There's less pollution, all those sort of things. So the business case provides a justification for the project. And then with a council, so this is a council, sorry, it'll go on to the infrastructure project list. So they've got councils obviously have a heck of a lot of projects on the books, something the size of Auckland. They've got hundreds and hundreds of these different projects, things that need to be done, and so they've got to prioritise it. And so what they have is an infrastructure project list or something like that, that sort of just lists all the projects, and every year they prioritise them. Which of these projects that really have to happen now, which are the ones that can be put off for a couple of years, which are the ones that can be put off for 10 years. Sequencing them as well. We need to do this project before we do that one. We need to upgrade the pipelines under the road before we reseal the road, for example. So if the project's not selected, then it will go back into that infrastructure project list, and that is reviewed every year, and sometimes the project might actually be selected. And once it's selected, the council will review it and approve it. So it'll go to the full council, the elected representatives of the community, the Auckland Council in our case. So the council approves the minutes and provides the project authorisation. So it goes to the council, the approval is minuted, they write a set of minutes and it's approved, and therefore the council officers, the people that work for the council, now have the authority to go and start the project. They have the authority and they have the funding. So that's the way a council project is often initiated. Now it'll vary between councils, it'll vary between projects, it all happens a little bit differently, but generally they go through the same things. Identifying the project scope, putting it on a list, prioritising it against other projects, going towards council reviewing it, approving it, and then a council officer being given authorisation to procure the deliverables that would be produced by the project. Some councils will then have a design department who will actually design it. Others will actually go out to external sources, external consultants, and get them to design it for them. Right. Now a developer, usually a private organisation, could be a big organisation, or it could be just a couple of people that sort of get together and have a bit of land and they want to subdivide it. So they identify an opportunity. The project deliverables are developed, so they might develop it themselves, or they might sort of work with a consultant. They might hire a consultant just to do some preliminary work for them. They'd come up with a business case justifying it. This is how much it's going to cost us to develop this subdivision or to build this building, and this is how much money we're going to make out of it. And if you're going to make more money than what you've spent on it, considering time as well, then it's probably going to be viable if you're making enough. So some Organisations will look at it and say, well, I'm only making 5%, hardly worth it. Oh, this one's going to be worth 10% profit, so it might be worth it. So they'll look at it, and that'll be the senior management, the people that own the developers. If the project's not viable, they're going to go right back and say, well, what else could we do with this bit of land? So it might have been that they said, oh, we're going to build a 4-story residential land on it, and it didn't turn out to be viable. So now they say, well, what about if we did a 6-story office block or a commercial centre or something like that? So sometimes they'll go round and round a few times to sort of develop a project that will actually meet their requirements, which is to make a certain profit on it. If the project is viable, they'll have to obtain the funding. Then that might be that they have funding internally, so they've got it sitting in their own bank account, or they go to the bank and they have the bank sort of provide them a loan, which can be millions upon millions of dollars, which they'll pay back when they sell off the land that they're developing. Or it could be that they've got a partner, a financial institution who partners with them and takes part of the profit. So the difference would be that a bank, you pay them back what you owe them. If you've got a partner, then they share in the profits and they share in the losses too. And then the developer approves the project. That might be a formal letter or a memo providing project authorization. They might have an in-house project manager who would go ahead and procure it, or they might have just a manager who goes out and hires a project manager who will then act for them to initiate the project and sort of get on with it. Okay, and so each one of these things for the initiation process is a project statement of work, the agreements, internal agreements, external agreements, enterprise environmental factors, the market conditions, how much, in the case of a council one, that's how much it's going to cost us to procure the services to build this thing. The same with the developer, but the developer is also looking at what are the market conditions when I sell the land as well. Project drivers, are we going to satisfy those project drivers? Organisational process assets, you've done it before, previous projects, your company systems. Then you apply your expert judgment, and the project charter would include the business case, the justification for the project, also a statement of the scope. So the business case would include a high-level statement of the scope, as would the proposals. The memos, the meeting minutes would identify the authorization of the project. So the initiation process, this is just sort of reviewing what we've got there, identify the stakeholders. So this is another way of looking at it. You identify the need or opportunity. You usually have to identify the stakeholders too, I've got to mention that. The people that are involved. So within a company, within a council, if you're talking about a road, you might be talking to the parks people because it might affect the park. You might be talking to the roading people, you might be talking to the planning people. Within a development organisation, you'd be talking to the banks, you'd be talking to real estate agents, as to whether you can sell it or not. Define the project goals and objectives. Select the strategy. How are we actually going to do this? So that's another thing, is how are we going to procure it? Are we going to do a design and build, or are we going to do a design bid build? Are we going to just have a project manager and manage a whole lot of little projects all together? How are we going to do it? Develop the requirements, deliverables and success criteria. How do we know if we've succeeded? Assumptions and risks, and then develop a scope statement. What's included, what's not included. So that's another way of looking at the initiation process. So the project procurement strategy. So this is how are we going to get this. So with the council it would be, how are we going to procure a road? And that includes how we're going to procure the design of the road, how we're going to procure the construction of the road. So procurement, acquiring goods and services required to complete the project objectives. And so you'll be asking questions, the client organisation, can we do some of this internally? So some councils, for example, will have a design department that can do at least part of the design. How do we procure the external goods and services? Are we doing just quotes? Are we going to go to previous suppliers? Are we going to do a design bid build? Are we going to go out to tendering? All those sort of things. Do we split it into smaller projects, or do we just have one big project? So all those sort of things. How are we going to get it? How are we going to do that? what are we going to do internally, what are we going to get other people to do. And so the common methods of procuring the project deliverables: design by build, design and build, alliancing, construction management. There's also negotiation and quotes and things like that. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of what goes on. Basically, you have two different types of clients. You've got the council who have needs to satisfy, roads, pipelines, and that sort of stuff, and developers who are looking to make some profit on the project.